everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, back again with another exciting news video. We're just off the back of Monday Night Raw, where several newsworthy things happened, and we're going to take a look at a couple of stories from elsewhere in the world of wrestling too. All fascinating and interesting stuff. So, without any further ado, let's get on with those headlines. First of all, a released WWE Superstar says he might not ever wrestle again. Next up, a WWE Hall of Famer returns next week after a short period on the sidelines, but what is he going to do next? And finally, AJ Styles returned to Monday Night Raw last night, but we take a look at the original plans for the Phenomenal One. So yes, first of all, one of those recently released WWE Superstars has revealed that they may never wrestle again, and that man is none other than former Cruiserweight Champion Lio Rush. He not only tweeted last night saying he might not ever wrestle again, but also suggested that his shoot interview is going to be insane, all caps for insane there, so many topics of discussion. He also plugged an upcoming album called Ever After, which will be released on Monday, May the 11th. So lots of stuff going on there on Lio Rush's Twitter feed. He also provided a booking email address and said that he's available for music features, but I'm surprised at this news, to be honest with you. That's not because I don't think that Lio Rush can make it in music. I don't know enough about his music really to give my own opinion on that, but also he seems like a very driven and creative individual, so he's got that going for him. But the reason I'm surprised is because, you know, he was a bit of a star of the independent scene prior to signing with WWE. And yes, he's one of those people who's kind of polarized opinion wherever he's gone. There's been people who've said, oh, Lio Rush is one of the most talented wrestlers in the world, and there's been others who've said Lio Rush was a nightmare backstage and I didn't get along with him. You know, it's probably one of those things where the truth lies somewhere in the middle, I suppose, but you can't just assume that Lio Rush is unbookable because a few people have said they don't like him. And certainly you'd think that his sheer amount of talent would allow for Lio Rush to secure quite a few independent bookings off the back of being released by WWE. So the fact that he's saying he might not ever wrestle again, that certainly very much sounds more like his idea totally, rather than any idea that he can't get booked anywhere. Obviously he can't get booked anywhere at the minute, nobody can, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I am surprised, and because it's Lio Rush and because he's a wrestler, part of me actually thinks that this isn't very sincere and that he might just be saying this to drum up attention before he does indeed get a booking somewhere else. I don't actually know though, because Lio Rush seems like the sort of guy who just takes a chance and does things on a whim sometimes, and maybe one of those whims is leaving the wrestling business. You never know, but then again, we do know one thing, and that's that the wrestling business often has a habit of dragging people back in, and because Lio Rush is still young, younger than me I believe, that means that he's still got quite a future ahead of him should he choose to pursue that avenue. But also, let's not forget that other tweet that he made, that his shoot interview is going to be insane, all caps, so many topics of discussion. Could we get, in a similar way to when Jon Moxley came out of WWE, could we get a bit of a revealing shoot interview where the kind of inner mechanics, the inner workings of WWE are kind of revealed a little bit? It should be very interesting. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if and when such a shoot interview emerges. Next up, a WWE Hall of Famer will be returning next week on Monday Night Raw as advertised on last night's edition of the show, and that man is none other than the Rated R Superstar coming off of his victory at WrestleMania 36, Edge. But he won't be alone, because it was also reported on this same video package / advertisement type thing that Randy Orton will also be returning to Raw. Now, it was implied from the wording of this that Randy Orton and Edge would be meeting or continuing their feud in some respect. The video package said the Rated R Superstar will be hunting the venomous Randy Orton. Does the hunter become the hunted? Edge Orton next week on Raw. Now for me, that seems very strange. Very strange indeed, because you had this whole self-contained Edge and Randy Orton storyline heading into WrestleMania 36. The build was absolutely wonderful. The match itself did draw some criticism because it was very long and it seemed a little bit laborious at times, but then again, the setup wasn't really in their favor. They were brawling through various rooms backstage in the Performance Center without the benefit of a crowd, essentially, to help them through. There were various reasons for that match not quite clicking with everybody who watched it, but at the same time, you can't argue that the finish seemed pretty climactic. It seemed pretty final, didn't it? That was, of course, Edge finally taking his revenge on Randy Orton for all the things he'd done to him since his return to WWE, and nailing him with that climactic concerto on top of the production truck, and that was it. That was Orton down for the 10 count and Edge winning the last man standing match. So I don't understand why Edge and Orton look set to continue this feud. It seems very strange. It doesn't seem like a natural way to go after such a climactic ending. I don't really understand why you'd continue this past what seems to be its natural expiry date. And if this is true and that feud is continuing, then I think that there's another negative aspect to it as well, and that's the fact that Edge and Randy Orton, in fairness, could be mixing it up with some fresh, younger talent on the roster and helping to elevate the credentials of those guys in the eyes of the fans. That rings particularly true for Edge. Imagine Edge taking on somebody like Andrade, for example, somebody who's been on the rise recently, but who could use a bit of an extra push by going toe-to-toe with a certified WWE legend. I just don't think it gets more clear than that, and I don't understand why you'd continue to have Edge and Orton square off in this way. In fairness, this could all be a bait and switch, because it just seems like such an unlikely thing to do. You could have them surprisingly make up and reform Rated RKO, but I think that might be a bit of a stretch given how personal their feud got in the build-up to that WrestleMania match. I don't know, you could have one last match between the two on Raw, and then they'd go off and do their separate things elsewhere with other members of the roster, but even one more match seems a little bit too much after that grueling war that we saw at WrestleMania. Hopefully whatever happens, Edge is utilised to the best of his abilities, because he is, of course, the sort of rare character that can be believably evil when he needs to be, but as a babyface comes across so sincere and so sympathetic, and I think that's really useful, especially if it was put to use elevating some of the more promising heels in the Raw roster. Next up, if you watched Raw last night, you'll know that AJ Styles made his return from the dead after being literally buried by Undertaker in that boneyard match on night one of WrestleMania. Yeah, if you didn't see that match, and if so, what? How did you not see that? Undertaker picked up the victory in that boneyard match, burying AJ Styles alive and seemingly, in canon, murdering Gallows and Anderson, because of course before they next appeared, they were released from their WWE contracts. But now Styles is back. He made his return last night at the tail end of a lengthy gauntlet match in which he defeated Humberto Carrillo, tapping him out with the calf crusher to secure his spot in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. And immediately, having been put in that match, you have to consider AJ Styles one of the favourites, don't you? That's not just because he's so high-flying and so dynamic in those sort of matches, but because as well, out of everybody who could grab the briefcase and really make it a useful tool to their own character over the course of the next few months, you have to say that AJ Styles is up there with that. He's so charismatic, so often hilarious in a heelish way on the mic, that I think that him with the briefcase would be too good an opportunity to pass up. No, maybe too good an opportunity to pass up sounds very final. There are other competitors in that match I'd like to see with the briefcase, but I think chief among them is AJ Styles. But these were apparently not, according to Dave Meltzer, the original plans for AJ Styles. This is not when he was originally supposed to return, and that may cast a bit of doubt over the idea of him winning this Money in the Bank briefcase. According to Meltzer, the original idea was to keep him out longer, but I think with the ratings falling, it's kind of like we can't adhere to this Undertaker stipulation for a guy who's not actually hurt when so many guys are hurt and not coming to the show. So he's willing to come. Yeah, it seems like circumstances have kind of forced WWE's hand a little bit here with AJ Styles. He is one of the top stars on the Raw brand, of course, and with people, as Meltzer mentions, with people either on the shelf injured or not wanting to risk themselves and come to the show, which is totally fair, by the way. I'm not putting any blame on them for that. But with AJ Styles totally willing to work on the shows, it does seem like a bit of a missed opportunity not to bring him back. But as far as I saw, and correct me if I've missed something here, Styles didn't really explain how he got out of the boneyard alive in his promo after the match. He kind of just said, oh, there were no rules in the boneyard match. There we go. So that was a bit strange. Maybe he kept it all mystical and secretive on purpose. A bit like Captain Jack Sparrow when he escaped from that island on Pirates of the Caribbean 1. That's what AJ Styles is. He's Captain Jack Sparrow, isn't he? No, he's not. But it will be very interesting to see what AJ does next, whether that be winning the Money in the Bank ladder match, having that briefcase and moving back up towards the main event scene, or not winning the briefcase and moving into a feud with somebody else. Regardless of what happens, because it's AJ Styles, you can kind of put your money on it being good. Next up, let's talk about Roman Reigns, because WWE aren't. Yes, many people noticed on social media last night during Raw that Roman was kind of edited out of a video package in rather obvious fashion. There have been rumours and reports in the build-up to this story suggesting that Roman has been kind of scrubbed from the current product in a weird way. Meltzer was reporting that apparently they are banned from mentioning him on commentary, even though, you know, he would be relevant, I guess, to a lot of the guys still competing actively today during the pandemic. But no, according to Meltzer and other reports, Roman is kind of not being mentioned right now by WWE. But last night's Raw was the clearest and most obvious example of this. They were kind of sparsely dropping in little, it was like a countdown throughout the show of the best cash-in moments ever, to hype, the build towards Money in the Bank. And one of those, of course, was arguably the biggest cash-in ever, which was Seth Rollins in the main event of WrestleMania 31, interrupting that match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and in fact pinning Roman Reigns to win the WWE Championship. But during the video package last night, Roman Reigns was edited out of that moment, a moment which was very crucial to his presence because he was the man taking the fall and was one of the two people in the match that Rollins interrupted. So why would WWE do this? I don't think it's too far-fetched to theorize that someone in WWE, possibly someone quite high up, could be really annoyed about the fact that Roman Reigns walked out of WrestleMania and forced a whole change to one of the two title scenes in the big two men's divisions, you know what I mean? So obviously Braun Strowman had to come in to replace him and has now beaten Goldberg and is now the Universal Champion. But as far as we were aware, that wasn't the plan at all. Reigns was meant to beat Goldberg and currently be the Universal Champion. But then, is it right for WWE to do this? I would suggest absolutely not. And if there's any truth to those rumors that we've all seen that, people are annoyed at Reigns for walking out, I'd say that's a really horrible position to take because the man, quite literally, in my opinion, had no choice. He's got a young family, he's got a compromised immune system. Why on earth would he literally risk his life turning up to work? I don't care if it's WrestleMania or just a standard show or whatever, I just think that Roman had no choice. Regardless of the scale of the event that he was walking out on, yeah, he just had to do what he did, and to me there wasn't even a debate to be had. That's just his only option, really, isn't it? So it is quite weird that Reigns is being edited out of all of these moments. I guess we won't really know what this is all about, maybe ever, but possibly at least until Reigns returns, when the whole situation calms down and things become a lot safer for everybody, or maybe Roman will give an update himself. I doubt that because nothing's been explicitly said about him on WWE TV. But remember, when there were rumors swirling about Reigns being pulled from that main event of WrestleMania, he took to Instagram and just confirmed it himself before WWE had even advertised his replacement in the match. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching this news video. We'll have graded up later today for last night's Monday Night Raw. We'll have WTF moments, of course, and in the build to Money in the Bank, we will be doing our usual pictures and predictions and all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for our Money in the Bank coverage. It should be a really exciting weekend. And of course, I have to give my match recommendation. I'm going to recommend a bit of a forgotten classic, a bit of a forgotten modern classic in my opinion, from Extreme Rules 2016, around this time of year, I believe, as well, just after WrestleMania. I'm going to go for Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles in a no DQ match, or an Extreme Rules match. That makes more sense, doesn't it? That was a great match. It was early on in Roman Reigns' title reign, and I think that, Styles really was one of Roman's best opponents one-on-one. So definitely check that match out if you haven't already, and if you have access to it. And thank you very much for watching. Hopefully everyone's staying safe out there. Stay positive as well. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Thank you once again for watching this video, and I'll see you very soon.